Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_data. All right, so we got Laughing at the Enemy taken care of. Apologies to those that might have caught it early because, first of all, I forgot to push the button thing. That's why it wasn't out on time. This new thing, for some reason, I'm struggling to remember to set it to AM. It must have done that automatically in the last one. Now it defaults to PM, and I just never think to do it. So that's happened a couple times already. But anyways, if you caught it early, it's probably full of naughty words and everything. And then I remembered to change it. So I changed it, edited it, re-uploaded it. My apologies. All right. Today is Get to Know Your Resident Tennessee Titans Team Day. That's the plan. There really isn't hardly any news and notes. A lot of big hubbub about the fact that Jordan Love was in pads, still listed as limited. I don't know that means much. I think the assumption generally is that if you're in pads, you're probably doing more. I don't know. I'm guessing that's the parallel people are drawing, is that he probably participated in team stuff, but I don't know. I don't know what it means, if anything. Again, if we want to continue down the path of conspiracy theories, which I've been engaged in, we would probably just assume that the Packers have put him in pads just as a, like, oh, look, he's in pads, and then when they went to go do teamwork, he didn't do anything. Whatever it is, I feel like we're in the same spot of he definitely could play. I'm leaning toward won't, but could. Again, I generally believe what Jordan said, and that is it's going to be a process of practicing and being in constant communication with the trainers. The trainers are going to, take trainers, team doctors, whatever, take that feedback and try to gauge whether or not it's the right decision to allow him to play. So that's the process they're going through. They're going to let him practice. They're going to let him practice in pads, which makes sense. It's hard to evaluate that without wearing pads, how you're actually moving and feeling and all that. And we'll see. We'll just see what they say. Again, I'm leaning toward no because he's not going to be fully healed, and I don't think the Packers are going to want to do that, but we'll see. We will see. All right, so what I'd like to do as far as getting to know the Tennessee Titans, want to just run through sort of who they are generally as far as their offseason, because they're an uncommon opponent. Look at their offseason. I said that wrong. Look at who they were last year, record, all that stuff. The offseason, then get into the players, and then get into the overall team in terms of what they're doing this year. So, Tennessee Titans last year under Mike Vrabel, 6-11. As far as points goes, they ranked 27th on offense, 16th on defense. Just a really poor quality football team. This offseason, they first and foremost fired Mike Vrabel. Kind of I think a lot of people were very surprised by that. I mean, obviously you're not finding success, but I think a lot of people were surprised to think that Vrabel would be the one getting the blame for that. They went ahead and hired Brian Callahan to be the head coach. Nick Holtz is the offensive coordinator. Denard Wilson is the defensive coordinator. And as an interesting little nugget, Justin Outen is the tight ends coach, former Green Bay Packers guy. But Brian Callahan was the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals for many, many years. If you remember the Bengals, presumably he went there at the same time. He got hired and was put under, what the heck is the guy's name? Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor comes from the same coaching tree as Matt LaFleur. In fact, I think Zach Taylor took over as the offensive coordinator after Matt LaFleur and then got hired to be the head coach of the Bengals. So very similar philosophies. Aptitudes, I don't know, but similar philosophies. So that is what Brian Callahan is going to bring, is a similar style of offense to what Matt LaFleur was kind of brought up in. It's funny because we all think of like Matt LaFleur as being a Titans guy. So there's going to be some similarities there. Really, the Titans are going to be more of a Packers team, and that's where the similarity comes in. Nick Holtz, the offensive coordinator, kind of new to the game. He's kind of just come back into the NFL recently. His highest, I guess you call it, rank in, let's just say, 2021, assistant wide receivers coach, just to give you an idea of kind of what he had been doing, quality control, all that kind of stuff. He goes to college for a year at UNLV as an offensive coordinator, comes back as a pass game coordinator, and then offensive coordinator. All that to say, very, very new experience for him. 3 years ago, he was an assistant wide receivers coach. Then he was 1 year college offensive coordinator, 1 year pass game coordinator for the Jaguars, and now he's offensive coordinator for the Titans. DC Denard Wilson is also, you probably remember his name, but also a first-time defensive coordinator. If you don't remember his name, he was the DB coach for the Baltimore Ravens. So before we hired Hafley, there were pretty much any and all defensive coaches for the Baltimore Ravens. Packer fans were swarming, myself included, looking at some of the potential DCs. And Denard Wilson was one of them. He ended up going to the Tennessee Titans. And as of right now, Tennessee Titans do have the number one defense in terms of yards. Now, they're 24th in points, so I don't know if we want to go doing backflips about how great of a defense they have necessarily, but at least there's that early return on results. And to be fair, that's 24 points against the Bears and the Jets. And at least as far as the Bears are concerned, the 24 points, a lot of that was Bears defense / special teams putting up all those points. Then one of the first big player changes they made, March 29th, they traded the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave a 2024 7th and a 2025 3rd for their cornerback, L'Jarius Sneed. So Sneed goes from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Tennessee Titans, so we will be seeing him. Then the NFL draft came around. They obviously had some pretty early picks. With the 7th selection, they took J.C. Latham. Then they took T'Vondre Sweat, a guy that, I appreciated his size and all that, but there was just no coming around how not good of a football player I thought he would be. We'll get into talking about these guys in a minute. But massive defensive tackle. At pick 106, they took Cedric Gray, the linebacker out of North Carolina. In the 5th round, Jarvis Brownlee, cornerback out of Louisville. 6th round, Jaquan Jackson, wide receiver out of Tulane. And then in the 7th round, James Williams, safety out of Miami. And Jalen Harrell, defensive end out of Michigan. Then you got free agency where there was quite a bit of a shakeup. First and foremost, running back Derrick Henry, who's obviously been a staple of that team for a long time. He went on to sign with the Baltimore Ravens. Denico Autry, defensive lineman, went to the Texans. Linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair signed with the Texans. Center Aaron Brewer went to Miami. Cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Wide receiver Chris Moore went to Arizona. Safety Kayvon Wallace went to Seattle. And Trevis Gibson, the edge rusher, went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. However, they also made some moves in free agency. I would say by far the most significant, well, the running back too, but many of these guys have made some impacts. I don't know if there's any that I'm personally interested in more than wide receiver Calvin Ridley, who they signed for 4 years, $92 million. Now, maybe the impact isn't as massive because the quarterback and offense issues and whatnot, but the reason the guy scares the crap out of me, and we'll get into it in a minute, is as far as deep threats go, when you got a quarterback that just wants to launch it deep down the field all the time, Calvin Ridley is a threat. So that's a big piece of their offense and one of the biggest things the Packers are going to have to watch out for, especially, there's that whole, we're not getting into it. It's more of a midweek off-season type of topic, but was it Mel Kiper talking about too high or whatever? Packers are a little less concerned right now in just that whole just focus on taking away the deep stuff strategy. Now, maybe that changes this week. I don't know, but we'll see. It's got me. I don't want to say worried, but something to think about. Then they got center Lloyd Cushenberry, 4 years, $50 million. Cornerback Chidobe Awuzie is a pretty big addition that they signed, 3 years, $36 million. Running back Tony Pollard, really good running back for Dallas for a long time. He was always better than Ezekiel Elliott, and it took a few years for the Cowboys to recognize that. But then, unfortunately, the Cowboys had to part ways with Pollard. He now joins the Tennessee Titans. Linebacker Kenneth Murray went 2 years, $15 million. Another offensive lineman, Sadiq Charles, 1 year, 2.5, and quarterback Mason Rudolph is there, along with Sebastian Joseph Day. Some of the latter ones aren't as important. And then also one of the notable cuts, by the way, Andre Dillard, who is now with the Green Bay Packers. So there you go. All right. Now that we've got that all down, why don't we get started just going through sort of position by position, looking at the Tennessee Titans, seeing what we can glean from it. First of all, just for the heck of it, let's look at their offense as a whole. They have 3 players at a 70 grade. Brunskill, who played 5 snaps, so he doesn't count. Nick Vannett, tight end, just 36 snaps, so not even their top guy. And then running back Tony Pollard. That's the one thing that seems to kind of be working. Some high 60s, but whatever. On the negative side, they've got 10 of their 21 below a 60. Below a 55, though, sort of the, iffy, not super great guys. The Nicholas Petit-Frere, that's another one that maybe you've heard about quite a bit already. Their right tackle, really playing some bad football. Big opportunity for Rashawn Gary there. He's at a 53 right now. Chigoziem Okonkwo, there are quite a few positives about him that we'll get to, but he's at a 51 overall grade. Treylon Burks, a guy that many people wanted to the Packers. I can't remember if I did or not. Big wide receiver. He is at a 50 PFF grade. Quarterback Will Levis is, depending on whether you want to include Andrew Rupcich, who's played 15 snaps. If you don't, Will Levis is their lowest graded player. Never a good sign for a team when your lowest graded offensive player is your quarterback. So why don't we just go ahead and dip into that? Will Levis, so far through 2 weeks, he has 319 passing yards, 5.3 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Now, it is worth noting, there's a lot of wild and crazy stuff that has happened. Talked about Sam Darnold, for an example, where he was like an elite football player week 1, basically put up similar stats week 2, and everyone kind of went, oh man, he did it again. But PFF looked at it and said, no, that wasn't very good. It was okay. It was above average, but, not the greatest. Will Levis is kind of the same in reverse, though. Despite having similar type grades or stats, I guess, 32.8 grade against Chicago, 65.9 against the Jets. 65.9 is not good, but it's not, holy crap, this is the worst quarterback we've ever seen. He's a big piece of crap, and we're obviously going to destroy the guy. For reference, he threw 2 interceptions against the Bears. They only called one of those a turnover-worthy play. In this game, 1 turnover-worthy play. So a lot of talk about, Packers are the best team as far as takeaways. Titans are one of the worst. I don't know that it's necessarily just automatic. Will Levis is seemingly not the greatest quarterback in the world, and he makes some mistakes, and he likes to throw the deep ball, which obviously those are always higher risk to begin with. But he has 2 turnover-worthy plays in 2 games. That means if he does it again, that's going to be 1 real genuine opportunity for the Packers just in terms of like a bad pass. That doesn't mean there couldn't be tips or fumbles or anything else. But if you're looking for that one, that's 1 opportunity. And if you don't come down with it, then sucks to be you, I guess. But he has 2 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays. He has been sacked 7 times, according to PFF. Again, they have usually different metrics, so if you've heard different, don't worry about it. Go with whatever number you heard, whatever you like. It doesn't matter. He currently has, time to throw is 2.88, which is relatively high. Not terrible, but it's up there. 3.03 against the Jets in this past game, which is obviously incredibly high. Passer rating right now is a 67.3. Looking at him under pressure, while he's been kept clean, which, by the way, he's been pressured more than most, right? We hear about the Chicago Bears and whatnot, and Caleb has been pressured a ton, no doubt. I don't know if anybody's been pressured more than Will Levis. Depends on where you're looking. I think PFF has him as the number 1 most pressured. We'll look at NFL Pro in a minute. Kind of an interesting dynamic between how much he's been pressured and how often he's blitzed. Real positive sign when you are one of, if not the most pressured, but kind of middle of the pack in terms of blitz, meaning You don't have to bring extra to be able to get to this guy, which is where you start asking guys like Rashawn and Kenny and Wyatt and Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley and Preston. You start asking those guys, you have to win the one-on-ones today. I need you. But anyways, of the 56% of his clean dropbacks, he is 26 of 38, 68%, 213 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. 65 PFF grade. Under pressure, 43.8% of the time, 12 of 22, 54.5%, 106 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 pick, 27 PFF grade. So he's like, when he's kept clean. He is horrifically bad, brutally bad while under pressure. So please, I mean, the game plan couldn't be any more clear here. Get to Will Levis. Everything I've said making fun of Caleb, it applies to Will Levis. He can't handle it. He doesn't know what to do. He panics. He makes bad decisions. Get pressure on him. A couple notes I picked up along the way. He struggles with pressure, facing a league-high 53.4% pressure rate through 2 games, contributing to his negative .41 EPA per dropback. Will Levis is a limited rushing threat. He averages 3 rushing attempts per game at 4 yards per carry. Needs to improve his decision-making under pressure to avoid turnovers, with 1 costly interception in Week 1 and a fumble in Week 2. Coach Brian Callahan is visibly frustrated, and Will Levis apparently may already be on the hot seat. I don't know how close we are to that, but there's some pretty funny quotes from the head coach toward Will Levis, just in absolute disdain. A couple other stats that I pulled out. He is the 4th highest CPOE. That's a positive thing for Will Levis that's worth keeping an eye on. Again, the idea that this is just the worst guy that's terrible at everything all the time, that's not really the complete picture. He had the 3rd lowest EPA per dropback. So it's a weird contrast where, CPOE is completion percentage over expected. He is throwing really accurate, really difficult, complex passes way at a much higher rate than most quarterbacks. How is his EPA per dropback so low? Well, there's a lot of things that can happen on a dropback. First of all, if you throw 10 passes, 9 of them are on the money, tight window throws, 15 yards down the field. Don't worry about how long a football field is. This is for illustrative purposes. And 1 pick six. CPOE doesn't take in the how good or how bad a play is. It's just, complexity of the play or whatever, but not how valuable the play is. But it is worth noting the 4th highest CPOE, because if these guys cannot lock into their people, it could end up being a problem. If you're expecting another Anthony Richardson performance where he's dropping back and throwing balls that are just sailing over guys' heads, I don't know that that's exactly what we're going to see. 6th highest deep pass rate in the NFL. And then, as I mentioned, 21st in blitz rate. So, again, 53.4 pressure rate. Most pressured quarterback in football, 21st most blitzed. Offensive line has got some problems, / holding onto the ball, whatever else. He also does not have a great wide receiver situation, according to the separation rates. 4th lowest receiver separation in the NFL. Now, maybe he's just not seeing the open guys and is throwing to unnecessarily tight windows or whatever the case is. But yeah, 4th lowest receiver separation rate in the NFL. All right, why don't we take our first break? We'll come back, rip through the rest of the offense, do the defense, and then look at some team statistics. We'll be right back. All right, taking a look at their wide receiver situation. Let's sort it by targets. Why not? Calvin Ridley is their number 1 most targeted receiver. He is 7 of 13, 127 yards and a touchdown, but just a 67.2 PFF grade. Very, you call it above average, but not great, not terrifying. Tyler Boyd is 5 of 11, 44 yards, 61 PFF grade. Tony Pollard, the running back, is the 3rd most targeted. He's 8 of 10, 52 yards, 72 PFF grade. I should actually highlight the receiving grade since they're different. Calvin Ridley, 67. Tyler Boyd, 62. Tony Pollard, 67. They don't have a wide receiver that grades in the 70s as far as their receiving grade. Pollard is in the 70s because of his rushing ability and whatnot, and apparently pass blocking and stuff. Tyjae Spears is 6 of 6, 22 yards. A lot of question about Spears and whether he's going to play in this game. He has played in both games so far. He's been injured all week, and we'll get to that momentarily here. Chigoziem Okonkwo, Chig or Chiggy or whatever he goes by, 5 of 5, 31 yards, 58, and a touchdown, 58.7 receiving grade. DeAndre Hopkins, who, believe it or not, is on this team, just 3 targets, 2 receptions, 17 yards, 58 PFF grade. Treylon Burks, 1 target, 1 reception on 3 targets for 2 yards, 47.9 PFF grade. And they got 2 tight ends here. Josh White is 2 for 2 for 13 yards, 59 grade. Nick Vannett, 2 for 2 for 11 yards, 59 PFF grade. Cumulatively, as a team, 319 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. The wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, couple other notes here. First of all, he is 32 years old. His week 1 to week 2 is pretty much identical, so there's no like, well, he just had the one bad game. It's like copy and paste. But Hopkins does have at least 1 reception in 164 straight games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. That is pretty wild. That would be a heck of a goal for the Green Bay Packers to deny Hopkins a single reception, and it really doesn't seem to be that difficult because he's only had 1 in the last 2 weeks. He's become very close to not getting it. So, got to shut him down. There is, however, an expectation that his play time could increase. He played 9 snaps in pass grade snaps, whatever, in week 1 and then 20 in week 2. That may continue to increase. He is recovering from a knee injury, so we'll see how that goes. And then as far as the stats go, I found a couple stats. I didn't go through every stat on every player. I kind of just went through and looked at the NFL and said, do they have anybody that stands out as being one of the best or one of the worst? I don't care, they rank middle of the... I don't care. Big difference between Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd, the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. Let's start with the worst first, Tyler Boyd. He has the 10th worst catch rate in the NFL. He's catching just 50% of his passes. He has the 15th lowest receiving EPA for any receiver, tight end, running back. They were all on the list. I think there were like 150 people. He ranked 15th lowest in receiving EPA. And of all those people, has the lowest average separation in the entire NFL. Lowest. Worst. Terrible. On the Calvin Ridley side, he ranks 12th in yards per reception, 4th highest deep pass percentage. Again, watch those deep shots. Number 1 in air yards per target. Most of these stats are kind of intuitive if you just think it through. How far did the ball travel when he was targeted? The purpose of the metric is to not include a little dump off pass that you ran for 40 yards. That's not a 40-yard reception for the quarterback. It's a 1-yard reception with a 39-yard run. So when a quarterback throws at you, how deep down the field are you when you're targeted? He is number 1. Now, again, some of the positives here, he's only 7 of 13 for 127 yards and a touchdown. So he's not exactly making the most of his opportunities. He is also not great as far as catch rate. I mentioned Tyler Boyd is the 15th worst. Calvin is the 16th worst. Now, that may have to do with bad quarterback throws as opposed to drops or whatever else you want to call it, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, we just don't want these guys catching them. Looking at the tight end, Chigoziem Okonkwo, 2 things that he stood out on. Yards after the catch over expected. So this is the other part. You catch it, what are you going to do? And again, the over expected is taking everything else into context. What should you have done compared to what you did? He's the 3rd lowest. So for a tight end who's on a list with a bunch of wide receivers, running backs, everybody else, he's not doing anything, at least so far, when he catches the ball. He's going nowhere. However, 4th highest catch rate over expected. So he's got good hands. He's coming down with a lot of stuff. That's probably why he's 5 for 5 for 31 yards and a touchdown. Looking at the running backs, let's go by rushing attempts. Tony Pollard is their number 1 guy, 33 attempts, 144 yards, 4.4 yards per attempt, and 1 touchdown. He has a 70 rushing grade. Tajay Spears, 10 attempts, 41 yards, 67 rushing grade. That's 4.1 yards per attempt. Will Levis has the next most attempts with 8, 74 yards, 9.3 yards per attempt, and 2 fumbles. So please run Will Levis. 8 attempts and 2 fumbles. That's crazy. Burks has 2 carries for 1 yard, 62 grade. Calvin Ridley has 1 attempt for 10 yards. They gave him a 63 grade. So the only running back with a 70 grade is Pollard, and he's at a 70.0. Again, Tajee Spears dealing with some injury issues, listed as questionable for week 3 with an ankle injury, but expected to play. Spears brings playmaking ability as both a runner and a receiver. Saw 8 touches in 3 quarters last week, with Coach Callahan mentioning his increased workload. Tony Pollard currently ranks 7th in yards after contact per attempt. He is 1 spot below Josh Jacobs. According to PFF, it's 3.83 yards after contact. I don't know if that's the same as what NFL Pro had. But either way, he's doing a lot with a little right now. Again, he's only got 4.4 yards per attempt, but that's almost 4 yards per attempt after contact, and he has 9 missed tackles forced on the season as well. All right, now we get into the good stuff, the offensive line, which is not, not everything's going to be terrible, but it's still kind of funny. Rookie J.C. Latham is their current left tackle. Big dude. I think a lot of people expected him to be a right tackle, but given the Titans situation, they've decided he will be their left tackle. His run blocking, not super surprisingly, as a big mauling monster, is already a 75.3 PFF grade. Pretty impressive for a rookie that just got his start. As for week to week, it's actually been kind of back and forth, so we can talk about that in a minute, but his pass blocking grade is down at a 60.9. His pass blocking has not been very good. He's allowed 1 sack, 2 hits, 3 hurries, 6 total pressures so far. The other thing, he could end up being a really good player in this game. He could end up being a terrible player. Week 1, 82 run blocking, 40 pass blocking. Week 2, 61 run blocking, 76 pass blocking. So it was just flipped. So we'll see. We'll see what he ends up doing against the Packers. It looks like he's kind of on a pretty good path, though. I mean, if I'm just watching a rookie's first 2 games and had to guess their trajectory, it's not a bad start. Then they got Peter Skoronski, another first-round pick. He was pick 11 by the Tennessee Titans. He's currently playing left guard. Not a super great start to his career. Last year, his run blocking grade was a 58, pass blocking 63. So far this year, he has a 62 run blocking grade, which is about the same as it was last year, a 58 pass blocking grade. It was actually quite good against the Jets, but he had a 36 pass blocking grade against Chicago. So far, he's given up 0 sacks, 3 hits, 2 hurries, 7 total pressures as a left guard. At center, as we mentioned, they brought in Lloyd Cushenberry. He was drafted by the Broncos in the 3rd round, spent 4 years there. Really was never that good until last year. 2023 was his first decent year, 72 run blocking, 76 pass blocking. So far this year, 59 and 69, pass blocking being the higher one. 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 2 hurries. 98.6 pass blocking efficiency grade, so not great, not terrible. At right guard, they have Dylan Raduns, or Raduns, I don't remember. I used to know how to say it, I don't remember anymore. He was a 2nd-round pick, so they've invested heavily in this offensive line, haven't got a great return. Guy was god-awful the first 2 years. Got a little bit of a bounce, but it's mostly been run blocking for him. He has not been a good pass blocker in his career. So far this year, 69 overall, 70 run blocking, 55 pass blocking. He's given up a sack and 5 hurries, 6 total pressures. And then the guy everybody's been talking about is Nicholas Petit-Frere. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Ohio State. Again, another relatively early pick. I mean, this is like their latest pick of their draft picks on the offensive line. But the returns are just not there. This is his 3rd year in Tennessee. I don't even know why. I mean, people talked about him as a 2nd-round pick. I remember him just thinking, this guy's not good. He currently has a 53 overall grade, 59 run blocking, and a 48 pass blocking. He's given up 2 sacks, a hit, and 8 hurries, 11 total pressures on the season. The tackles definitely are I guess that's not even true. I was going to say the tackles are the biggest liabilities. Raduns also has 6, and Skoronski has 7 pressures. But yeah, Ferrer has given up the most. His pass blocking grade did dip quite a bit down to a 39.9. Usually if I see like a 59 and then a 39, I'd assume the 39 is an outlier. And it's like, yeah, but he's not that bad. I mean, last year, having played about the same amount of snaps, so not that much, it was a 27. And then the year before that, when he was a starter, it was a 50. So, I don't know. But all that to say, I mean, against Chicago, solid defense. He gave up 1 sack, 1 hurry. So, again, we can't just sit here and assume Rashawn Gary gets 7 pressures or he's a bum. And the same with a lot of these guys. I mean, almost every single one of these offensive linemen has had a good day out of the 2. It's just a matter of where the chips are going to fall. And if they all come up tails, that sucks for us. But I think the positive thing is not everything comes down to luck. And also not everything comes down to the offensive line. It depends on not only how good these guys can be, but how good Jeff Hafley can be. Because when you have guys that, have good days but are generally not good football players, you can put it on the defensive coordinator a little bit to mix some things up and cause some confusion and allow guys that are asking for excuses to be bad. Funny part is if you look at their highest graded pass blockers in order, it's running back, tight end, tight end, a guy that played 1 snap, and then center Lloyd Cushenberry, who ranks 8th. It's their highest graded pass blocker. He ranks 8th on their team. Granted, 2 of those guys did not really play much, but I don't care because it's funny. Anyways, let's take a break. We'll do defense, a couple little things on the team stuff, and then we'll get up out of here. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, defensive grades. Just one guy graded out in the 70s or higher. Ernest Jones, linebacker, 76 PFF grade. On the bad side, Quandre Diggs, safety, 52. Caleb Murphy, he's not really a starter. Let's see, Kenneth Murray, who's played 110 snaps, 39 PFF grade. That's a linebacker. L'Jarius Sneed, who they paid a bunch of money for the Kansas City Chiefs, has a 37.8 PFF grade. This is the defense you're being told to be terrified of. Sebastian Joseph Day, defensive tackle, 33 grade. There's a few others, Ali Gay, James Lynch, Keandre Coburn, a few other guys that haven't played a ton of snaps, but also pretty low grades. The number one guy that is talked about as like the biggest threat, scariest guy, gotta watch out for him, is Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons, I believe, was the one who was on video talking about nobody wants to run against us, nobody can do anything against us, which is interesting because they're not, not good enough to be talking that way, I guess. But he currently has a 59.6 PFF grade, 70 run defense, 72 tackling, 53 pass rush, 60 coverage. Of the run defense, by the way, one good game against the Jets, pretty bad against the Chicago Bears. He also has 54 pass rush attempts. Again, you're looking for at least 5 pressures at this point, hoping for closer to 6. That's even still around 10%. And if you're, really, really good, you get 7, 8, 9 type of thing. That's through the roof. He has 0 pressures, no sacks, no hits, not a single hurry. So as frustrating as some of our guys can be, Wyatt and Kenny, at the very least, have a pressure. The number 2 defensive tackle is rookie second-round pick out of Texas, T'Vondre Sweat. Sweat, again, freakish human being, 6'4", 362, scariest dude ever. He has a 64 grade, 59 run defense, which is really all you're wanting this guy for. 67 pass rush. He has 2 pressures on 39 attempts, which is not good. For a 362-pound nose tackle, it's probably acceptable. But it's not, pass rush good. He did have one good grade against Chicago. They gave him a 77. That was primarily the pass rush because that's where all his 2 pressures came from. It was 2 pressures on 19 attempts. The run defense has been 64 and 55, so he has not been able to really get that going. And then DT3 is Sebastian Joseph Day. This is their number 3 defensive tackle. He has a 33 PFF grade, 29 run defense grade, and a 62 pass rush grade. He has 2 pressures on 18 attempts and 1 sack. So this is your pass rusher, right? Horrifically bad run defender, 29 run defense grade. But, yeah, I mean, 2 pressures on 18 attempts and a sack is about as good as you could ever ask a guy to be. But he's a bad football player. He just is. He had a good sophomore year. He's a 6th-round pick, year 2 with the L.A. Rams. He seemed solid and then just fell off. He was with the Rams, was bad with the Chargers. Then we went to San Francisco. Now he's with Tennessee. Like, he can't even last an entire year for a team anymore. He was with the Chargers and 49ers last year. So, look, I mean, Jeffrey Simmons has been a good football player for a pretty long time. I do think the hype is maybe a little bit overhyped. I mean, I loved Jeffrey Simmons. He got injured in his rookie year, but he bounced back year 2, dominant dude, right? 83 PFF grade, scary guy. 2021, he fell off a little bit, 72. Like, well, whatever. 2022, right back to the 80s. Like, let's go. By the way, pass rush was a pretty big part of this. 66 out of 689, but 14 sacks. That's out of control. Then in 2022, 53 pressures on 58 at 584 attempts. It's sub 10% again, but still 8 sacks. So people get excited about it. 2023, he went down again. So it's good year, okay year, good year, down year. 68 grade, just a 63 run defense grade. But then maybe his best pass rush year statistically, 47 out of 393. His run defense has never really been that elite, though. So first of all, he's only had a 10% pressure rate once, and that was last year. His run defense grades have been 60, 70, 60, 70, 60, and so far 70. He hasn't been a dominant player, quote unquote, according to PFF, since 2022. So I don't want to downplay it too much, but I just think a lot of people are going to come in here and they're going to go, dude, you got Amani Hooker at safety. You got Quandre Diggs at safety. You got L'Jarius Sneed, who is a dominant player for whatchamacallit. You got Harold Landry. And, you know, some of the stats are in their favor. We'll get to the stats in a minute, but Harold Landry is a freak off the edge. You got Awuzie at corner. You got Jeffrey Simmons on the inside with rookie Tavondre Sweat. Anybody else interesting here? Not really. Jamal Adams, I guess, if you feel like getting excited about that, at safety. I mean, it's names, but it hasn't really fully materialized, at least, you know, as far as PFF grades are concerned, and even the statistics are not the greatest, although some of the guys got some stuff. Anyways, at edge, I mean, they really don't rotate very much. You got Harold Landry with 102 snaps, Arden Key 88. Then it's all the way down to Jalen Harrell, who's played 32 snaps, and then Caleb Murphy at 10 and Ali Gay at 3. That's it. Harold Landry is their top guy. Harold Landry's a pretty decent pass rusher. First of all, he gets a lot of sacks, which gets people excited. You get past double digits, people get excited about it. 2021, he had 70 pressures and 16 sacks on 569 attempts. Like, he has the ability to do some damage, no doubt about it. It was a little bit less last year, 47 and 11 sacks on 435 attempts. By the way, PFF has never given him a good pass rush grade, so the consistency must just be terrible off the edge. He either gets just thrown on his face. He is a smaller guy, 6'2", 252. Gets embarrassed and thrown on his face, or gets to the quarterback. It's one or the other. I'm guessing that's why he would get bad grades but decent stats. Anyways, so far this year, he's off to a good start. First of all, 3 sacks, the stat everybody cares about, in 2 games is really impressive. He's tied for, I forget what it is. I think I saved that stat. We'll check it out in a minute. One of the highest to have 3. He also has 6 pressures on 50 attempts, which is solid. That's, you know, above 10%. That's what you would be asking for. It's also been consistent. 27 attempts, he had 3 pressures and a sack. 23 attempts, 3 pressures, 2 sacks. So Harold Landry's a threat. The thing that I like about it is, again, first of all, the grades are terrible, so he obviously is, although he's going to have that 1 play or 2 plays or 3 plays where he's going to get there, the rest of it, he's kind of useless. But 66 PFF grades, 68 run defense, and 58 pass rush is where Harold Landry sits right now. Then you got Arden Key. Arden Key, I'll never forget, funniest thing ever, was like a lock first-round pick for some reason, completely fell off a cliff. Went to the 3rd round to the Oakland Raiders. 3rd round, 87th selection. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Kind of figured it out, though, in San Francisco. First 3 years, he was awful. Goes to San Francisco, gets a 68 grade, and the pass rush is there. Then he doesn't survive that, goes to Jacksonville 2022, has his best year. Run defense and pass rushes there, according to grades. Then he goes to Tennessee. Takes a little bit of a step back, closer to where he was in San Francisco. Run defense again goes down, but his pass rush stays up. So 3 years in a row, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Tennessee. The grades, 75, 72, 73. And again, PFF doesn't give good grades for pass rush usually. So it's I don't know if it's a consistency thing or what. Certainly had been better. Now, this year, 58 overall, 53 run defense, 60 pass rush. He has 1 pressure and 0 sacks on 52 attempts. That is dog crap. So the run defense has not been good. He's never been good at it, so I don't expect that. It's also not a Harold Landry thing necessarily. These are really small guys. Key is 240. So they got smaller pass rushers, not the greatest run defenders. And Arden Key is off to a tragically bad period of 52 snaps. The only guy that gets any amount of snaps outside of that is Jalen Harrell. He was a 7th-round pick this year. He's a rookie. Rookie 7th-round pick has 0 pressures on 19 attempts. So again, just brutal. 58 grades, 60 run defense, 54 pass rush. It's just not there. So again, I will grant you that they've been able to do some stuff. One of those was against the Chicago Bears, who have just one of the worst offenses ever, and then the Jets, who, that was the game where Aaron Rodgers fell off, and like a lot of stuff was going wrong in that game. We can say it was to the Titans' credit, but I would look at it and say they played 2 bad offenses, right? The Jets, by the way, holy crap, did they look good last night or 2 nights ago for you? Aaron Rodgers looked like, it's funny. It's everything I say is the opposite every time. That's how you know Jordan Love's going to play this week, and everything. The defense is going to be good, though. Whatever. The opposite day thing continues with me. I was talking about Rodgers and how just like he hasn't played well since, really 2021. He hasn't been great since 2020. That was like Aaron Rodgers' greatness. That was a great game from Aaron Rodgers. The running backs looked phenomenal. The offensive line seemed to play well. The defense was scarier than all get out. So anyway, but again, when they played Tennessee, that was not the case. For context, Aaron Rodgers had an 86 grade against San Francisco, 82 against New England, 67 against Tennessee. And again, you could say that's Tennessee's fault if you want. They're so crazy good with all their, terrible corners like L'Jarius Sneed, who's been terrible this year and all that. Or Rodgers just had a bad day. Like a really bad day, and that's why there's videos coming out, and I'm looking at it going, that's crap. Why? Who would do that? That sucks. Yeah, he had a crap day. Tennessee lucked out by getting like old man Rodgers and getting just the worst team ever in Chicago. Maybe they're going to luck out again because Malik Willis has a game that everybody expects him to have. But still, I think they've been more lucky than good, is what I think. Their linebackers. Actually, let me check. I think I might have skipped some stats here. I forgot all about. Oh, so Harold Landry is tied for 4th in sacks. That was the thing I was telling you. There are quite a few that have 3, but still pretty solid. Titans pass rusher has been inconsistent, ranking near the bottom in pressure rate, 21.2%. That's not correct. Some of these things I found myself. Some of them I pulled from articles, but that number has got to be wrong. Let me see if that was. No, it wasn't. It wasn't for me. Was it? Let me check. Let me check NFL Pro real quick. Maybe I put in the wrong number. No, it wouldn't have been me because there's way too many people for me to even try to find it. Whatever. We talked about it. He was terrible. Has been terrible. All right, linebackers. Kenneth Murray is their number 1 linebacker. He was a number 1 pick by the Chargers, 23rd overall from Oklahoma. I actually liked Kenneth Murray quite a bit. I think that was the Patrick Queen year, and I was more of a Kenneth Murray guy. Both of them ended up being quite bad, although Queen has been better with Baltimore lately. Anyways, he has been criminally terrible his entire career. Going back to 2020, just rounding his grades, 50, 30, 40, 50. So far this year, 30. Just the worst. And this is their starting linebacker, by the way. Again, number 1 guy. And this is the scary defense. Give me a break. 39 PFF grade, 28 run defense grade. Yeah, you can't run against this team. 72 pass rush, which was only 8 attempts. He has 1 pressure. I don't care. And then a 53 coverage grade. He's already given up 2 touchdowns so far. Both were against the Jets, but still. Awful. Number 2 linebacker is Ernest Jones. He does have a 76 grade, 61 run defense, 74 pass rush, 76 coverage. However, he just had one really, really good game against the Jets and then one really bad game against the Chicago Bears. He did actually grade out quite well for LA last year. He was a 3rd-round pick, by the way. 79 grade, 86 run defense, 77 tackling, 83 pass rush, 57 coverage is what he did last year. I don't think he's a coverage linebacker. Never has been. I think it's a little bit of a fluke, again, with one game against the Jets where he graded out really well. So based on history, I think this is more of a run defense guy, but I don't know if he's good at all, to be honest. And then the number 3 linebacker only played 33 snaps so far, but 60 PFF grade, 49 run defense, 57 pass rush, 68 coverage. So just not very good. They do have a linebacker by the name of Luke Gifford, but he's dealing with a back injury. Gifford has been a top guy. I don't know if he's actually a top guy, but he's one of their top special teamers in terms of like their usage and how much they appreciate him or whatever. His absence could end up hurting, especially the special teams unit. And then the stat that I pulled up on Kenneth Murray, 20th worst passer rating when targeted. He has a passer rating when targeted of 143.2. Their number 1 linebacker has a passer rating given up of 143.2. Okay. Then their number 1 cornerback, who we talked about, L'Jarius Sneed, who came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. He always played well for the Chiefs. I mean, his first 2 years were okay. And then it was 77 and 73. Just been a solid corner. Really, I mean, if you look at his coverage grade, 71, 61, 75, 74, consistently solid for Kansas City. Tennessee's like, hey, I know, let's go buy him. So they went and paid for him. So far, against the Chicago Bears, 38 PFF grade, 35.7 coverage grade, 3 receptions on 5 targets for 30 yards is what he gave up, but obviously on a snap-to-snap, he was terrible. The Jets, 46 grade, 49 coverage grade. He gave up 2 receptions and 35 yards in that game. He's got to be one of the lowest graded corners in the NFL right now. Number 2 boundary guy is Chidobe Awuzie. He's been better. He's got a 69 PFF grade and along with his 37 tackling grade, a 70 coverage grade. That's pretty standard for him. He's been hovering at that like 65, 70 mark his entire career. Started off, he's 29 years old. He started off with Dallas as a 2nd rounder. 70, 60, 70, 50, 70, 60, 60, and so far 60. Rounding just to the 10th unit. But it was really closer to a 70 in 2022. 62 last year, 69 so far this year. But again, he's okay, I guess. And then their slot corner is Roger McCreary. 65 grade, 68 coverage grade. It's a little bit lower than what he was last year, but he had just 71. He's pretty whatever as a player. Again, he's fine. He's at or possibly above the level of like a Keyshawn Nixon or whatever, which I know, like if you say anything about Keyshawn right now, everybody gets mad because Keyshawn went on social media and seemed sad that people were making fun of him and or talking bad about him or whatever. I don't know. I didn't say anything about him on social media, but I also just don't care. I'm not going to say he's great at something because he got sad. But anyways, yeah, Roger McCreary is just whatever. So they got 2 kind of corners and a corner that was good for a different team and a different scheme that is not doing well with this more. Because remember, he went from Kansas City Chiefs to Baltimore Ravens, essentially. That is their new defensive situation. And look, I mean, there's really 2 ways to look at the L'Jarius Sneed thing, which is a major question for us to ask or answer in regard to this upcoming game against the Titans. And the question is, do the Titans have a really solid number 1 wide receiver, or a cornerback, that just needs to find his groove, and week 3 seems reasonable that would be when he does it? Or is it possible that going from the Chiefs scheme to more of a Baltimore Ravens scheme has not been necessarily the best? Again, not going to pretend to be an expert on all things, different teams, different schemes and whatnot, but there's no doubt that their defensive coordinator, let's just say broadly, has done a fantastic job. And I've also said that I I don't know that they had the best players over there in Kansas City. That guy just knew how to put guys in a position to succeed. Maybe, with Baltimore, you're looking for a little bit more specificity of certain types of players to do some high-level stuff. And maybe L'Jarius Sneed is not one of those guys. Don't know the answer to that, but what I can say is he's been bad. But finally, as far as the players go, they have their safeties. Now, they do technically have 3 safeties, but Jamal Adams, who, man, talk about a fall from grace, he had, some of the best 2 years of safety play you've ever seen with the Jets, and the Jets must have just recognized that this guy was not all he was cracked up to be or something. I don't know. He went to Seattle for 4 years, just really couldn't hack it. Now he's with Tennessee in 2024, going on 29 years old. He's played 2 defensive snaps so far. So there's that. But you know what? I forgot my my notes on the corners real quick. So a couple of notes from around the web on Roger McCreary. Vital in both pass and run defense as a nickel corner, often lining up against slot receivers and being utilized in blitz packages. So obviously that's going to be the primary Jaden Reed adversary. Despite his small size, McCreary excels at forcing runs back inside and making plays behind the line of scrimmage with 4 tackles for a loss in 2 games. Christian Fulton and, whatever, that's just opinion. All right. Chidobe Awuzie. He is tied for 6th best in the NFL at forcing tight window throws, 50%. The one positive I had on them. All right, the starting safeties, they have Amani Hooker and Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs we know relatively well. He was with Detroit from 2015 to 2019. Amani Hooker's been a Tennessee Titan for a long time. Had one real premier year in 2021, but that was about it. His grades are 60, 60, 80, 60, 60, 60. So we talked about that. A lot of guys have like these breakout years. And for him, when it happens in year 3, which it seems to happen a lot, everybody's ears perk up. Like, ooh, he hit it. I think sometimes it just isn't really paid attention to as much when he starts to fall off again. But again, 2022, 63, 2023, 67. He had, against Chicago, they gave him almost a elite grade, 88 PFF grade, 82 coverage, 86 tackling. So he's still got something going for him, but the inconsistency's rough against the Jets. 40 PFF grade, 38 run defense, 78 tackling, 47 coverage grade. It's just 4 targets, 1 reception for 6 yards, but again, they hated whatever he did for some reason. But as far as his statistics, 8th best in catch rate over expected, 48.2, negative 48.2. And then he's 9th right now in coverage EPA with a negative 9.7. So some pretty solid stats for Amani Hooker, because that's not among safeties. That's just among football players. NFL Pro does not have filters for that, which is pretty basic and stupid that they missed that. But among basically all defensive players. And then Quandre Diggs, not off to a very good start. He was always okay with Detroit, 70, 50, 60, 70. His 1 year of Detroit/Seattle, it was 70. His grades then 60, 70, 70. Then he fell off in 2023 with Seattle. As their starting safety, he had a 55 grade, 55 run defense, 47 tackling, 58 pass rush, 55 coverage. Kind of just bad at everything. Seattle said, all right, enough is enough. Sent him off to Tennessee, and so far he's even taken a step back from there. His worst grade ever was 2016, 54. Right now he's at a 52. His worst run defense grade was a 55 last year. It's currently at a 48. And then he's had 2 years with worse coverage grades than what he has right now, 56. But, Quandre Diggs, if he was ever a really good safety, pushing 32 now, doesn't seem like he's got much left in the tank, I don't think. Although I just said that about Rodgers, and he had a great day, so I should just shut my mouth. All right, real quick, let's take a look at some of these team statistics. Looking at their offense, first of all, they are 10th worst on offense, scoring only 17 points per game. It's crazy that there are 9 teams worse than that. Panthers are currently averaging 6.5 points per game. Oh, my lordy lord. Tennessee is 8th worst as far as yards. They're averaging 272 points per game. Only 2 teams are below 200, and that includes Carolina at 176 and the Bears at 176.5. I would say it'd be fun to watch those two teams play each other, but I think Chicago would probably just smoke them because they at least have a defense. But it's how do you smoke a team if you can't score? I guess I don't know. Yards per play, and I should mention I'll go back and start mentioning the Packers as well. But Tennessee Titans are the the seventh worst team as far as yards per play, which is interesting when you consider this is a quarterback that really likes to push the ball down the field. But if you're not having success and every other play is built around short passes and running the ball and whatnot, it's not going to be. Packers are fourth best, though, at 6.4 yards per play. Packers also 13th in points per game and 4th in yards per game, which is encouraging, assuming the Packers are going to start doing a better job of actually getting points out of these drives, because as far as yards go, it's one of the best offenses in football. Touchdowns, unfortunately, are very similar. Packers 4, Titans 4. So by similar, I mean identical. EPA per play, the Green Bay Packers are 8th. The Tennessee Titans are 28th. Pass yards per game, Packers are 19th. Tennessee Titans are 27th. It's kind of amazing to me that the Packers rank as high as they do in some of these categories, considering they had a subpar day from Jordan and then Malik Willis in another game. But EPA per pass, the Green Bay Packers are 5th. Tennessee Titans are 30th in EPA per pass. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. EPA per run, Tennessee's actually higher. They rank 10th. The Packers are 16th. However, if you're just looking at raw yardage, 212 yards, number 1 in the NFL for the Green Bay Packers. The Tennessee Titans are 13th with 135 yards. Titans are averaging 5 yards per carry, which is impressive, but not quite as impressive as the Packers' second-ranked 5.7 yards per play. Being tied with the Baltimore Ravens in rushing is not a bad spot to be. Quarterback pressures from least to most. The Green Bay Packers quarterbacks are the 4th least pressured quarterbacks in the NFL, only 14 pressures through 2 games. The Titans are the second most pressured, 39 pressures in 2 games. New England is the only team that has seen more, and that's because they've been in 3 games, so that doesn't even count. So Tennessee is the most. I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know. As a percentage, the Green Bay Packers are the 6th least pressured, 25.5%. Tennessee is the most pressured, 53.4%. Flipping over to defense real quick, looking at pass and run. Again, kind of hilarious that the Packers are 18th in pass percentage, 55.9%. Titans actually pass more, 57.8%, still a pretty low number. Points per game allowed, the Tennessee Titans currently rank, where the heck are they? I don't know why I thought that they were better than this. They rank 24th in points allowed per game at 24. The Green Bay Packers are at 22. So points per game, the Packers are better. Looking at yards per game, the Tennessee Titans have allowed the least amount of yards. So this is an interesting dynamic because the Packers get a lot of yards. The Titans don't allow a lot of yards. Packers struggle to get points. The Titans kind of allow a lot of points. They've only allowed 206 yards, but 24 points per game. 206 yards per game, so 412, 413. Packers rank 27th in yards given up per game, 374. So kind of the opposite as well. A lot of yards, but not a lot of points given up. Yards per play, from least to most, the Titans allow 3.8 yards per play. Part of that might have to do with playing, again, a struggling Jets team and a horrifically bad Chicago Bears team. But the Packers rank 26th at 5.9 yards per game. Touchdowns given up, Titans actually rank, tied for 6th with 3. Packers are 22nd with 5. EPA per play, Tennessee Titans are the 8th best defense. The Packers are 14th. For a Packers defense, I'll tell you what, I'll take 14th. Looking specifically at pass defense from an EPA standpoint, Tennessee Titans rank 10th, Packers rank 18th. Looking at run defense, the Tennessee Titans rank 11th, the Packers rank 13th. And actually, that's not even true. They're both tied for 11th. They're both negative .08 for run defense. The Packers, the Lions, and the Titans are all tied as far as their run defense. Quarterback pressures. The Green Bay Packers rank 12th with 25 pressures. Actually, they're tied for 10th with 25 pressures. They're tied with the Buffalo Bills, the Denver Broncos, and the New Orleans Saints and the Steelers. So I'm pretty happy with that. And again, the Jets are number one because they've played an extra game. We'll get to the percentage in a minute. The Titans rank 24th with 19 quarterback pressures. If we look as a percentage, Packers are tied for 15th with the Colts at 32.1%. The Tennessee Titans are, again, 24th, just 28.8% of the time they are bringing pressure. And then just looking at DVOA, they have us ranked, the Packers ranked as the 11th best team in football. They have Tennessee ranked as the 23rd ranked overall team. They have the Packers right now. This is not projection. This is based on what they've done with Jordan and Malik as the third best offense in the NFL. It's New Orleans, then Buffalo, then Green Bay. They have Tennessee's offense ranked 23rd. And then defense, they have Tennessee ranked 9th. They have Green Bay ranked 20th. And then for fun, let's look at special teams. They have, oh boy, Green Bay ranked 23rd, Tennessee ranked 32nd. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they suck at special teams. I don't know exactly what we're doing. I guess our kicker's missing a bunch of kicks, but there you go. I think we're pretty well covered, and I think my position is pretty well stated as far as I don't want to say I'm necessarily less scared of the Tennessee Titans than I am of the Colts. I think there's a lot being said about the Tennessee Titans defense that's not necessarily true. I do think that they're good as opposed to bad. If you had to pick one, I think maybe more accurately they're, mid isn't necessarily fair either. If you look at sort of it's either a mediocre team on the good side of the spectrum, or it's a good I shouldn't say team defense, a good defense on the lower end of the spectrum. I think the concern honestly comes in not so much about their defense and more so about assuming Malik plays, which we don't know. Can Matt LaFleur do it again? Can we put together a game plan that works? I am less scared of this offense than the Colts offense, that's for sure. Even though I don't know if I've ever seen an offense as bad as what we saw against the Colts. They've just not demonstrated an ability to do anything. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Packers on fire. Cheeseheads in the zone. Titans crying, limping off the throne. Green and gold blaze. Lambos the palace. Titans tumble, crumbling all malice. Tennessee shattered. Hopes on the rocks. Packers steamroll, clock tick-tocks. Touchdowns raining. Titans tear ducks flood. Green Bay all day. Rivers of cold mud. Titan tears. Title dreams gone. Packers mighty shining like dawn. Titans crumble, drowning in despair. Green Bay rain, king in the air. Titans ears, title dreams gone. Packers mighty, shining like dawn. Titans crumble, drowning in despair. Green Bay rain, king in the air. Titans fumble, defense breaks. Packers rumble, core that shakes. Nashville nightmares, Lambos dance. Titans fade, no chance to enhance. Titans can't hang, stumble and fall. Packers soar, giants so tall, cry on. Titans misery screams, Packers dominate, killing your dreams.